Okay, we're recording. Well, welcome back to part two of the very controversial interview with Gennifer Flowers on Grillo's Aftershock XL on the Grillo's Aftershock XL network. We are back with part two with Gennifer. She has a cute little picture of her filing away those top secret files with Bill Clinton in the background smiling. Gennifer, nice to have you back. Sorry about all the technical issues.
Thank you, Steve. Well, I'm not very technical to begin with, so
Well,
I'm afraid I can't help.
I have to say that in my defense, I do have a younger person here, which usually is something that helps you when you are in a technical bind. I'm in the same boat as you, and so but me having a young person here, I can tell you that there's definitely internet issues. So I hope that we don't have a problem getting to the where we left off because the last time we were on the phone, it almost seemed like there was a government interference where you started to talk about the Clinton body count, and then all of a sudden the phone went dead.
Yeah, that's not the first time that I've had odd things happen on the phone. It clearly
Like it just
felt
did right now. I think is what's that?
well. I've clearly felt and believed that my
Hello.
phone was. I was. Can you hear me? Hello.
This is
I
crazy.
I
There
can
we
hear you
go.
now,
All right.
but you.
It seems like every time we mention the Bill Clinton body count, the computer seems to go crazy.
Well, it could be. I don't doubt much of anything when it comes to that. I've had many years of experience and clearly felt at times that my phone, that people were listening in my calls. And
Well, you told me a funny story that you were on the phone and it was clicking. Why don't you tell that story?
I was living in Dallas, and back then the only cell phones we had were those great big ones that looked like a brick. So I had a landline and I had a voicemail set up because I didn't want to just pick up the phone because I never knew what crazy might be on it. So anyway, I talked with my friend Marge, was talking with my friend Marge, and the phone was just really clicking, which it had done to me with other calls many times. And she said, "What is all that clicking?" And I said, "Well, I think we're probably being listened to." And she said, "Really?" I said, "Really, but I want them to know that Bill Clinton still has a small penis." And the phone went crazy. It was just click. And she started laughing, and I did too. And so I just, of course, don't say anything that I care for anybody to hear. And I don't get the sense that it's happening these days, but it's, very well possible that it is.
I I didn't used to believe that until I was talking to my nephew. He just had a baby, and I was
Hmm.
asking him what it was like. He's a first time dad, and he was explaining to me about his routine with the baby. And then he got to the point where I goes, after the bath time, we have tummy time. And I said, "What the fuck is tummy time?" He goes, "Oh, that's when he lays on my chest and we bond. I talk to him, and it's sort of like he feels my heartbeat and everything." I go, "Oh wow, I never heard of tummy time before." Gennifer, no less than 20 minutes later, I start getting tummy time toys on my Facebook page.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, they say that our phones are listening to us, and the algorithms are geared to know things like that. Because I've had the same thing happen. I'll
Oh,
mention
it's
product.
scary, and you can't turn it off. They say this is what you got to do to turn it off. I don't think you can turn it off. I think it's just something that we have to accept. So let's see what
Mhm.
happens when we mention the Clinton body count again. That's where we kind of left off. You were explaining, we were talking about all the mysterious people in the Clintons' life that just happened to accidentally hang themselves and shoot themselves in the chest at the same time. There's
They
so
shot-
many odd deaths surrounding people that gave them problems, correct?
Yeah, as I was going to say yesterday, I can't speak for all of the names on there, but I do personally know some of them. Richard Parks was a guard at the governor's mansion, and I used to come and go there quite a bit. And after my story became public, he let people know that he had still pictures of me coming and going. And a car pulled up next to him on a major thoroughfare at a red light and shot and killed him. So shot him 5 times. My neighbor was beaten and left for dead because he had recordings of Bill coming to my door. So, and then I know I didn't personally know some of them, but I knew of them. When I say personally, I had met them. They weren't close friends or acquaintances, but I knew who they were. And so, like I said, I can't speak for everybody on that list, but I know that in the cases that I'm familiar, that it was definitely. Oh, yeah, when you say shot themselves with a shotgun, what I find amusing on there is when they say they committed suicide by shooting themselves in the head with a shotgun, the back of the head. Now think about that. And a shot, I mean, and how you're going to get it positioned in the back of your head to even do it. It's just ridiculous. People jumping out of windows, and all sorts of fun things. And I personally am not a conspiracy theorist, but I don't doubt most of what's on there is probably accurate.
When was the last time you spoke to him?
He called me just after Katrina, and he was coming to town with George W. It's part of the Katrina help relief, and he wanted to come over and see me. And I told him no, that he couldn't. Frankly, it scared me. There was a part of me that really did want to see him, and then there was the other part that was I was very scared, and I was there by myself. My cousin had been staying with me after Katrina. She had gone back to her home in Alabama, and another friend had gone to his perspective home, and I was there by myself. And he said, I said, you don't even know where I live. He said, oh yes, I do. He
Oh my
gave
God.
street number, and he said, "I'll wear a hoodie." Nobody. I said, "No." And finally, I just no. But I wasn't sure that he wouldn't come anyway. So I called a friend of mine, and I went over to her home and stayed for a while.
I'm sure
And
he knew where that was also.
probably, yeah, probably. But that was the last time that I
So
spoke.
even after all the lies that he told about you and everything that went down with that whole big press conference and everything, he uh he still had the balls to try to get in touch with you.
Well, it's an interesting thing, Steve. If you've ever, we had a very long term relationship, and throughout that relationship, eventually it was not only as lovers, but we were friends, and I always thought that I could trust him, and vice versa. So when it came to this, and I did not break the story, uh, and I wouldn't have, but I had to. Once it was out there, I had to spin for myself. But there's you can't just wipe away in your memory bank and in your heart things that meant so much to you with that person. Now, that's not to say that you can't say, okay, this is not good for me any longer and I'm not going to do it. Of course, we can, but it's just hard to. And we had some very special times together. And like I said, he would call me when he had an issue going on, whether it was big or small, and discuss it with me, and I would do the same. So there was more than just sex there. There really was a deep friendship that had lasted a very long time.
I
So
you've always
that
said that. Like I've never heard you say anything bad about him other than excuse me. Yeah, you've always talked to him like you always spoke about him fondly.
well, obviously there's a part of me that resents the hell out of the Clinton uh, operatives trying to ruin my life. Would have had me shoot myself in the head, uh, which was not going to happen. So there's that part that I have no patience for. But then it follows up with a variety of things that were special in a good way. So it's really very ambivalent. It's not easy to deal with. But everybody out there at one time or another, if you've lived enough life, you've been involved with someone that you truly loved with all your heart, spent a lot of time with, and something happens to the relationship, and they do something bad to you. I'm sure most people would tell you that. You too. I mean, you still want to, even if you don't want to. There's still those little memories of the good times sneak in there. So, and I always felt like that he wasn't necessarily the mastermind of that. I know that when my story broke, he went to bed with sick. He was just sick over it. Well, I was sick over it too. So it was just a hard situation all the way around.
What happened? What did you think when the whole Monica Lewinsky scandal broke? Like, because again, once again, he lied to the American public to their face, denied
Hmm.
everything,
Hmm.
and just much like he did with you, what he said, did he only slept with you once?
Yeah, that's funny. Every time I think that's funny.
Yeah, he said he only slept with you once.
Well, in
What's
19
that?
yeah, one time in 1977 is what he said in the deposition during the Paula Jones case. I was deposed as well. Mine was 8 hours. His was six. Uh, I was not surprised because I knew that Bill needed an outlet, and that he's not satisfied at home by any means, and he doesn't have that affection and the fun times that he needs. And so I wasn't surprised. I thought it was extremely foolish, but I wasn't surprised that it happened. I had actually predicted that something would happen while he was in office like that.
Now, did it creep you out or weird you out about that whole cigar incident where
Well, I can.
he used it as a tool? I guess.
Well, Bill found a place in the Bible that he could
Hello.
determine. I'm here. Are you?
Again, we're
Hello?
having a little technical issues. I don't know why it keeps rebooting,
Uh,
but we're gonna just keep steamrolling ahead. And so, when you found out the whole incident with the cigar, was that something shocking to you?
No, it wasn't. But early, several years prior to that, he was telling me that he had found a place in the Bible that in its description that oral sex or anything except vaginal sex was not a sin. It wasn't. It wasn't adultery. It wasn't cheating. Which I told him at the time that I said that's ridiculous and stop. I said I don't want to hear that anymore. But I believe that he wanted to believe that so that he felt he wasn't ultimately doing anything wrong.
Could you
Uh,
quote that Bible verse for me, please?
can I don't remember where he said it was. It's years ago in the
Yeah,
'80s. He was telling me that.
I'm sure it's
And
Bible that he customized.
yeah, I do it. I do a little. In my show, I say I just ran into Monica Lewinsky. She came in the door of my club, and I said, "Well, hey, Monica, you look great. What's going on? I hadn't seen her in a long time." She said, "Well, I'm doing good. I went to England. I got my education. I'm working with charities, and I'm really happy." And I said, "Well, I'm really glad to hear that." She said, "But I just made a huge change in my life." I said, "Well, you want to share?" She said, "Sure." She said, "I went from Democrat to Republican." I said, "Well, that's a big deal to change political parties. Why'd you do that?" She said, "Because those Democrats left a bad taste in my mouth."
Oh.
Hey, sorry. I had to do it.
That's great.
Yeah, anyway.
Now, it's true that President Trump invited you to the deposition, or he invited you somewhere Bill Clinton was going to be?
To the debate with Hillary
Okay.
because she said he doesn't get Donald doesn't get along with Mark Cuban, and she said she was going to have Mark Cuban on the front row, and he said, "Well, I'll just have Gennifer Flowers on the front row." And I know Donald. I had some dates with him in the early '90s. Perfect gentleman, And anyway, he
Went
made
on dates
friends
with
with
you went on dates with Donald Trump.
just yeah, just a couple dates in '93. But like I said, he was very nice and very much a gentleman. Anyway, so where were we here? I lost my train of.
Did it lead to anything, or was it just like casual date dinner
No,
thing?
we're just friends. We're friends, and it was casual. I was in New York, on some projects, and he called the Star magazine and talked to Dick Kaplan. Said, I'd like to talk to Gennifer and invite her to dinner. And Dick said, well, I'll ask her. And he called me, and I said, sure, why not? And anyway, so he sent a jet for me to fly me there. And but my mother, that I was in the process of taking care of my mother at that point because she was very ill, and she had just gotten out of the hospital, and I couldn't leave her. I just knew as sure as I did something would happen, and just feel horrible for the rest of my life. So I didn't go, but yes, he invited me to the debate.
That must have
That would have put them off a little bit, I'm sure, especially Hillary when she's up there, and Bill, but when she's up there trying to debate.
yeah, and she's got to stare at you. So I wasn't aware. Now, was Mark Cuban in the audience?
I think he was, but he wasn't on the front row.
I do
Um,
know that Don and Mark had an issue.
yeah, well, I don't know to what extent and what it's about, but I know that that's why when she said I'll have Mark Cuban on the front row, that he was going to put me there. And of course, like I said, it didn't come to pass. And I don't recall Mark Cuban being an issue during that campaign. I thought one line in there was great, and she said, "Can you imagine Donald Trump being head of the Justice Department?"
Well, I would
Yeah,
think
he's
that who's got more money? Like,
do what?
yeah. We're we're gonna have to. This isn't. Can you hear me now? Okay. We're gonna just stop. This is. We're just gonna